Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for joining us here today. We have two very special guests with us, both influencers themselves, and we're going to be talking about the world of influencing. For my first question, I would like to talk to you guys about how do you guys connect influencers with companies and people that need an influencer in their life?
Okay, I can help. So I'm an influencer. I have maybe almost 7 million Instagram followers. I didn't buy them. I have a big Facebook, a Twitter, Snapchat. And the way I connect with brands are through, a lot of times, my direct email, sometimes DMs, sometimes big, they have companies like Instabrand and Brand Snob. It's where people who are trying to sell something connect with influencers, and they're the middleman. So they'll say, this is Lindsey's engagement, this is how many followers she has, this is what she promotes, here are her photos, and then they can kind of connect you there. But I found a lot of my work has been through word of mouth, direct email, DMs, and a lot of it has been through like a little side hustle. So there's a lot of different ways.
Yeah, I mean, that's a great answer. That's exactly what I would say. I mean, most influencers, you can find their email almost anywhere, unless, I mean, if you don't want to go through a third-party network. But yeah, I put my email out in all of my bios and connect with most companies that way.
Excellent, excellent, excellent. My follow-up is, why do you need to be utilizing influencers?
Because it's the future. Everything is sold online. I mean, most things are, there's so much online retail, and everyone who buys something is using Instagram or Twitter or Snapchat. So why wouldn't you? If everyone's staring at their phone all day and you don't think, hey, I should put an ad there? I mean, come on. People are going to pay more attention to that than a billboard, I would think.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's a ton of studies that you can actually look up, just the trust factor when you put a product or a brand in front of, or in the hands of someone that people trust, especially around a specific topic. And with Lindsey, it's fitness and beauty brands. Like, if people are interested in those topics, having her tell them that you're the best is by far you're going to have a higher return than just putting out an ad. People trust people way more than they trust brands.
But how does it all help the brand, really? How else? How does this come across as being more beneficial?
Well, okay, it comes more beneficial for an online influencer than maybe a traditional commercial or ad or even pop-up store is the fact that it's someone follows daily. Through their morning to their afternoon, they know their dog's name. If someone is selling you something and this person isn't, like if you're a follower, sometimes you really follow the day-to-day, everything you do. So you really care about this person already. It's an actor on TV, you don't care about that guy, but if you care about someone you follow every single day, I think it holds a lot of weight.
No, it goes back to trust. You trust the people that you're following. And if they're telling you that the brand is safe and valuable, then you're more likely to believe it.
And how does it all work internationally?
I mean, I guess it really depends on your audience base. For international brands, you absolutely want to look at the data and make sure that if you're trying to break into a new market, that the influencer influences that area. There are influencers here. I'm sure, Lindsey, you have influencer or a following all over the world, but it's probably centralized in certain areas more than others. So it's definitely important to look at their followers and make sure that they're really influential in the right target areas.
That's so true. And they're really trying to, with the new algorithm, there is a way that timeliness matters. So say you're in journalism in another country, and you really need to stay up to date on what's going on. If you want an American audience, post something about that because it's going to show up on someone's explore page. And even geotags are important when you're an international brand or business and you're trying to kind of broaden your reach. So let's get that way. Geotags, do it.
How do you know when it's the right fit, the right influencer for the right brand, the right business?
Well, I think Insights can provide a lot of that info. You can literally go and see how many women follow someone, how many men follow someone, their age range, and their cities. That tells you a lot off the bat. And even with apps like Facebook, where they really spell it out for you, where you can pay to promote in certain cities, at certain ages, at certain sexes. It's actually really easy if you just follow the app.
Actually, I have a funny story about this. I was sitting on a flight to another conference 2 years ago, and I was talking about influencer marketing with someone, and the woman next to me said, you know, I wish I had met you $200,000 ago, because they had pushed these huge advertising budgets into the hands of the A-list celebrity versus, you know, the influencer in the, you know, 5 to 10 million range. They went for the 60 million celebrity style people, and they weren't seeing, you know, they didn't see any conversion at all. And so that's really where looking at how a product or what topic a person influences is valuable. Just because they're famous doesn't mean they can shift your brand in one direction or the other if their audience doesn't care about that.
That's so true. That's true. I work for a major fitness brand, and the owner, his name's Andy Frisella. He's an entrepreneur, motivational speaker, has a nice podcast. He's made his brand not only a product to sell, but a whole movement. And the way he's done it is hired influencers, some with major followings, and then he sells, he gives products to people with 20,000, 15,000 followers, local gym owners in small towns, and he really kind of creates this big buzz. And he's had us all attend a conference together at his warehouse in St. Louis. And so he's kind of like made the average everyday person like right there with the influencer, and he's just made it super organic. It's really interesting if you check him out. He's like fantastic.
Well, that's great. Community is a big part of it. I mean, you develop a community as an influencer, and having 20,000 people that care about fitness is better than having one person with 30 million followers that don't care about that at all. So
That's true.
Let's move on to the tips and tricks part of the seminar. Tell us about your process.
Tips and tricks. Okay, I think viralness, like a viral video, if you can get that. Everywhere from a comedian, humor, crazy political things like Nicole Arbor. Being viral is really memorable, and just being viral creates more of a buzz, and you can kind of go with it once it starts. So a lot of people want to start something with a viral push, and it works.
yeah, and that goes back to timeliness. I mean, you really don't want to talk about something that's not interesting right now in order for it to be viral, which I think is kind of what you were getting at earlier. And the other thing is consistency is really important. So no matter what you do it consistent, because people have an expectation for you to be something and to tell them a story. And when you sort of fall off, or you're not delivering what they've asked for or what you've said you would, is when you start losing the following.
Tell us something about growth strategies.
Growth strategies. Well, definitely the viral videos are one of my favorites, or anything viral. Keeping a consistent brand, so if I'm the funny guy who does makeup, keep it the funny guy doing makeup and don't stray. I know when people get a lot of growth and they start doing products, they forget, kind of who started and why. So keeping your brand straight. It's even really interesting when you're branding yourself to have a niche in how you even look. I know a makeup artist who's gone super famous because he has blue hair, and he kind of sells himself. He's like, you're my blue hair squad. Everyone comments blue heart emojis, and they just kind of keep his brand going, and they're into it. So I really love, keeping your brand strong, for sure.
Yeah. And that's really, with growth strategies too, it's knowing who has a similar brand and working with them can be really helpful as well. Crossing those audiences and showing that you have those relationships is really important. It's, examples like when one artist does an album with another and everyone gets really excited and they sort of merge their two audiences together. That's what influencers do as well.
That's true. We're constantly, even girls who are into modeling and things that we do, one will create a swim line, and then she calls everyone else up and dishes them out, and she's like, here, take a picture with my swim line. And we kind of do that across the board with every kind of product we have going on. So it's really good.
Wonderful. That's great. Is there anything that you think that we're missing here that people at GVS need to know?
I'm not sure, because I'm not sure what you have ready now.
Yes, we can move on to questions now.
How do you keep them engaged? So let's say you will have something out and then immediately response and they will follow you. How do you keep them stay follow or stay engaged?
Well, the thing is, they followed you for some reason. So consistency, 100%, is what's going to keep them engaged. I even find most accounts that do the best is when you speak to your audience directly. Even if you are a brand or, even if you're selling clothes or some kind of product, but if they have someone who speaks to them directly, now we have Instagram stories and live, and we kind of have this constant feed we can give everyone. That really engages people a lot. I followed this amazing swimwear brand, and I looked at their story the other day, and they said, hey, 5 o'clock downtown LA, we're doing this crazy warehouse sale. And I got up and I went, and it was something too good to miss, but that kind of constant engagement, especially with the Instagram stories and live, I think are really helpful.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all about communication. If they reach out to you, take the time to respond. People really appreciate it. They'll follow you forever. I mean, and it is about just having an open line of communication. And if you find it difficult to keep up with communication, then figure out a time and a place where you set aside 30 minutes and they can meet you online or do something so that they know that you are doing your best to communicate with them and it's not all about you. The other thing is usefulness. So when people follow Lindsey, they get a lot of tips on things that they really enjoy. It's less about you as the influencer and more about helping them with content suggestions, ideas. If you stray sort of away from that is when you'll start losing them.
Do we have any more questions?
Yes, over here.
Yes?
Hi. Can you talk a little bit about the monetization structures between influencers and brands?
We were talking about this backstage, about basically how much do you pay someone is important. A lot of influencers have a price list, and they will give you, a 24-hour post on my story is this, a 24-hour post on my page is this, a flyer is a certain amount, me taking a photo with a product is a certain amount. And the thing about it is social media is like the wild, wild west. The numbers can go anywhere. Some people are super cheap and some people are really expensive. And the only way to get there is to directly ask, which is a pain. But it's always, and that's where negotiating comes in, where you don't give them a direct number and you say you can be flexible. And you can leverage that a lot in really good ways. You can say, I'll pay you less per post, but I'll give you 12 posts throughout this year. And someone has security, so you can use that to your advantage as someone who's paying. So there's just a lot of ways, and it's really tricky, and there's no right way because it's social media, it's so new.
And also did you have a question?
Yes.
Okay.
So I come from the e-commerce business, and we developed an app for social media influencers to be a direct-to-consumer transaction. I'd love to show it to you. The idea of paying you per post and then 12 posts per year, plus a percentage of the transaction, with 6.9 million people on Instagram, that's more people on your Instagram than watch the Super Bowl, right? Now, what an advertiser would pay to reach that many people, and a brand go direct to consumer, the influence you have, what you said is, people follow people, they don't follow Nike, they follow LeBron,
Yeah.
right? So you have the strength of your community, which is your social tribe, to really be an Amazon competitor, right? So if there's a bathing suit that transacts 100,000 units, and you made from wholesale to retail on that product, the price per post and the 12 posts per calendar year, plus the transaction, makes you an e-commerce business. And I know that at 1% conversion of your 6.9 times the price of the product, you have a huge business.
You
A
can.
massive.
Yeah, you can. The only issue with that is these major brands, because we're talking NFL sponsorship and Amazon, a lot of them aren't ready to associate with smaller influencers. They're not, I don't know if they're not brave enough, I don't know. You know?
I partnered with those brands with the intention to partner with the influencers.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's also important to know that those brands are broken down by regions and in countries, and then within those regions they have agencies, and each division has their own way of operating. And so when you're saying, how do I get a deal with a big brand, you have to also say, okay, well, who's managing each part of the brand along the way, and where and why and how, and that's where it gets complicated. The other thing is, I think that when you're talking about influencers, the risk to an influencer for a one-shop deal is that they're going to lose followers. When you're promotional, you lose followers, and that's why you have to cross promotion with other influencers to build those followers back up. That's one. The other thing is that the real value is an ambassador, but you can only be ambassador to so many companies, right? So it's a complicated question because there's a lot of people trying to do it and no real like center of influence for the brands or the influencers right now.
How about building a Lindsey brand of makeup, a Lindsey brand of product? Is that?
Let's do it.
Yeah.
That's a winning
No,
strategy.
of course, we're doing that for sure. The only thing I've done so far is the Lindsey swimsuit calendar, which was really fun.
Okay, those swimsuits, you got 6.9 million people that want them.
The thing is, though, you also have to know that the audience, they're not all buyers. So you may have, 6.9 million, but like how many consistently buy a product? Not that many.
If you did 1%, you got a huge marketplace.
That's true. And I can work with that 1% for sure.
Yeah. Because the margin in swimsuits is huge anyway.
It's huge, but I mean, everyone's doing swimsuits also.
I have a question. How'd you guys get started, and what was the inflection points? Like, where it was like, oh, that was a growth, oh, that was a growth, I'm at a new level.
There we go.
Yeah, sure. No, I don't know. I think that for me, it was the level is when I got to a point where I was kind of overwhelmed, and I was like, oh wow, this thing is moving, and I had to figure out what my communication strategy was, what my message was going to be to people, and also how to stay safe. So when you, it's more of a feeling than a noticing, because as you start growing, then I mean, I don't know, you kind of you're in the work of it a little bit, but it's when the work itself becomes overwhelming that you start to realize like there's movement here, and then when people start wanting to pay you for it, that's really interesting. So yeah, I think
That's the best. No, when I moved here, I met the king of Instagram. I met a guy with 11 million followers 3 years ago, so that was a whole lot at the time. And we decided to work on social media, and he goes, I'm gonna make you internet famous. And so what we did was we had a viral YouTube video. Obviously, viral is my favorite idea, where it was like a hot, sexy video. And it was 9 million views really fast. And at the same time, we had professional photographers do a nice, pretty glam photo, something for when someone saw the video and they looked me up. I had something there on my page going on. And I had 1 million followers in 6 weeks, and that was just a few months after moving here. And then I just kind of kept going.
Yeah, and you make a good point. There has to be something that like behind it too. If you just have an Instagram account and there's no information about you anywhere, it's not a brand. Even though the Instagram account's extremely valuable, you don't own it. At the end of the day, if Instagram wants to remove you from Instagram, they just will, and that's it. Everything's gone. So you want to make sure you're pushing your brand to other places.
Any more questions? Yes?
So kind of to follow up on the earlier question on engagement, it's one thing to engage with videos, it's another thing to trust to buy from you. What do you think constitutes the trust?
I think what constitutes the trust is 100% the user you're following. If they seem trustworthy, if they promote a bunch of brands all the time, if they promote the same thing of different brands all the time, like if I try to sell you 3 protein shakes and in 1 week, why are you going to pick one? Like, it makes no sense. I also think seeing someone using a product you have or attending an event you want them to attend, some kind of, someone doing what you're trying to sell, wearing the clothes you're trying to sell, that's important.
How about movie premieres, right? So, Atomic Blonde, they put up 5, this is Ari Emanuel that decided this, 5 Instagram influencers go to the premiere, and he put the money in paying those Instagram influencers rather than traditional advertising methods, and it really worked. The film's a hit.
Yeah, I like that. I got free Kanye tickets that way. They said, come to the Easy Show and we'll give you nice tickets for free. And I did that. And so it works in those ways. I've gotten paid on National Sandwich Day to go to Fat Sal's and have a sandwich.
So when the movie
great.
comes out,
Yeah.
when the movie comes out to the home box office, what if you were able to make a percentage of every single transaction that happened? Like everybody that downloaded Atomic Blonde for $5, you got $1 out of it, times your audience. That's the new way to promote product because it's direct to your audience. It's a direct to an engaged audience.
It's a question?
Yeah, I think too, when you have to look at the structure of, so Hollywood itself it's old, it's built, right? You have agents and you have managers, and the people trust the agents to send quality talent, and then all of the deals are run through that. And if you book someone for a Burger King commercial, then they are on a contract where they can't do a commercial for McDonald's. And if they want to renegotiate, then the agent steps in and takes care of that. The influencer marketing situation is that you have agencies that have taken advantage a little bit in the beginning of influencers, and then were acquired by big companies, like AT&T owns an influencer marketing company, Disney, so on, right? So you also have to look at what the objectives are for the influencers, where they're coming from, who manages their brand, who's attached to them. There aren't a ton of influencers out there that don't associate with a manager or an agent of some sort. And when they don't, you also have to realize that being an influencer doesn't make you a business person or even help you understand that you can do those things. So for where you're sitting, you may want to structure the conversation to the business manager and then the influencer, or if they're managed by themselves, have a conversation where you're actually educating the person on, here's how I see it going, and this is how it can benefit you.
Yes? This gentleman here up in the front.
So you mentioned a couple of questions back, safety. So how do you kind of handle yourself as a brand versus yourself as like a personal entity?
Yeah.
Did you say safety?
No, because like with you as kind of a business brand identity, do you kind of feel a differentiation between who you are personally versus you when you're talking to your audience and for these brands?
Well, I think the good reason why social media is so beneficial is because people are getting popular for being themselves. So I think most of the time your brand really tends to be who you are. You can really tell when someone's putting on a show. I think every human has that basic instinct, like they're cheesy, we don't believe them. That's really easy to spot. But I do find it that I can't use the internet the same way maybe my friends can. I can't post my family and my friends, my relationships, if they're not beneficial, especially in this industry. In Hollywood, if they're not beneficial, I'm not going to share it because it hurts my business. So I hope people can understand that. It's a lot like reality television. Like reality is still a version of reality, but these people are still kind of putting on a show. It's themselves a little amplified. So I think that social media it's really similar to that.
Yeah, I agree. You have to be yourself, and you also have to know what to leave out and why. And that is actually goes across the board for everyone. You don't have to be an influencer to know that certain things you don't want to put online. That's a fact. The other thing is just know that everyone's already online and people can find you. Just being safe. Like for me, I used to work with this live streaming company, and I had one of the users email me my address. It was a troll, and it was really scary. I was like, okay, this is crazy. So then there's a flag, and I just sent the police to his house. It was fine, but it was like kind of weird. And you just realize that when you go to places, maybe it's safer for you to check in on your way out instead of on your way in. Little things like that to make sure that you're not setting yourself up for an uncomfortable situation.
I think we have time for one more question. Which one would you guys like to take? I feel guilty.
My question is, how do we make sure as a brand that the influencers that we're working with, they have the right follower base as far as the demographics, the location, as far as the age, female, male? Is there a website to go
I know they do have certain websites that will get that for you, but anyone verified has it already. And so you can ask them to screenshot that for them. I'm not sure if business accounts are different than a verified account. And, you know, because you can switch one to business.
So verified account is similar to Twitter. So anything can be verified, and you can be a business account or a person and be verified, but being a business doesn't make you verified.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then that would be one of those extra websites, which I don't know where they are, but they exist because I've seen it.
Clear.
Someone would know in here.
Clear, KLEAR.com. They give really good analytics and information, yeah. Kind of pricey though, but worth it.
Thank you, everybody, for being with us. Give us a round of applause for two giants of influence.